You were once a king among special forces. Yet unexpectedly, you traveled back to primitive society. You became a little primitive person just 10 years old. Here, you not only have to go 3 days starving 9 times. You don't even have a pair of shorts. Yet you remain completely unperturbed. With your experience from your previous life, establishing yourself in this primitive society is easy to control. At this moment, several women wrapped in animal skins are staring at you curiously. This unfortunate child is about to start self-harming. You ignore them. You take a stone knife and fiercely cut open the snake-bitten ankle. Then you jab a red-hot branch into the wound. After 3 horrible screams, you lay on the ground, exhausted. Just hoping that your instructor in your previous life didn't deceive you. High temperatures can kill snake venom proteins. After a night of life and death torment. The next day, you came back to life like a little cockroach. You take a piece of dried meat from a woman's hand. You gobble it down. The woman sees that you can eat again. She starts chattering to a few other women and is about to go out. You hurriedly stop her. You gesture wildly, asking for more food. The woman obviously replies that it's not possible. After all, the total population here is only a small tribe of just over 50 people. The food available each day is limited. Plus, it's currently the season for storing food before winter. So food is prioritized for the able-bodied adults. In a situation where food runs short, the first to be abandoned will be those like you, who are disabled. Thinking of this, you can no longer stay calm. The weather is getting colder by the day. You must quickly find a way to store food for the winter. After careful consideration, the easiest source of meat to obtain right now is fish. There is a small river less than 1,000 meters from here. But the people of this tribe do not eat fish. Naturally, there are no fishing tools. And the only thing I have in my hand is a stone knife used for cutting wounds. All I have is a snake skin about 3 to 4 meters long. It's the snake that bit your leg yesterday. You mutter a curse and head off to gather equipment. You're thinking of using some vines to weave a net to catch fish. After all, this primitive ecological environment has never been fished before. There should be plenty of fish in there. Before long, you return to the cave with a large bundle of vines. You start making a basket. A few little partners gather around, curiously watching you. They chatter away but can't say anything coherent. There are also a few women drying reeds near the cave. These are their beds and blankets for the winter. Suddenly, a terrified scream came from a distance. Following the direction of the screams, one could see at the edge of the jungle to the west of the cave, the bearded chief and 2 men, each clutching a gigantic bird egg, running while yelling at the top of their lungs. At the same time, there were several piercing screams. A terror bird, over 3 meters tall, was closely pursuing the chief. You suddenly shouted, "Quick, throw the eggs." Unfortunately, no one could understand. The chief did not give up the bird egg in his hands. The terror bird also did not relent against the chief. Before long, the chief was caught by the terror bird and met his end on the spot. The 2 adults who had run back saw this, and quickly threw away the eggs they were holding. They turned around, ran to the edge of the jungle, and climbed up a tree. They had just escaped a disaster. It's just that this group of little partners around you is too small and has never participated in hunting. They have never seen such a terrifying scene. They immediately got scared and started yelling. The terror bird lost its target. However, the children's yelling attracted its attention. It instantly turned around and rushed towards the cave. A few women in the cave quickly pulled your children into the cave. Then everyone pushed a large spherical boulder to block the entrance. Just when it was 30 centimeters away from the cave entrance, a huge shadow stretched into the gap of the cave. But the terror bird's small body could no longer fit in. They were finally safe. Nevertheless, several children were still scared and cried out loudly. You immediately shouted at them, "Whoever cries again will be thrown out." Although the children didn't understand what you said, but still, your fierce appearance scared them. They immediately fell silent. The terror bird couldn't break through the stone. It let out a few squawks. It could only turn around and leave the cave. Seeing this, you quietly approached the cave entrance. You peeked outside through the gap. At this moment, there was no one in the open area outside the cave. But the terror bird did not leave. It turned and walked over to the bearded chief's body. It began to peck at his body. Gritting your teeth, you decided to leave the terror bird. It had now tasted human flesh. And it knew the location of your tribe. In the future, the tribe might never find peace again. But right now, you have no weapons at all. Going over and fighting it with a wooden stick is no different from seeking death. At that moment, you saw the terror bird's long legs. Suddenly, something brightened your mind. You immediately began to prepare. First, find 2 fist-sized stones. Then untie the snake skin wrapped around your waist. Tie the stones to each side. After making it, you picked up the makeshift sling and went out through the gap in the cave entrance. The people in the cave were shocked. They wanted to catch up and hold you back, but were afraid of drawing the terror bird back. They could only watch anxiously from outside as bystanders. You quietly crouched behind the bushes and moved forward. You stopped about 500 or 600 meters away from the terror bird. At that moment, the terror bird was still indulging in its meal. Little did it know that a once fearsome killer had already set its sights on it. In the next moment, you quietly stood up. Grabbing the middle point of the snake skin rope, you quickly spun the sling. The 2 stones were hurled away, instantly straightening the rope under the force of centrifugal motion. The terror bird sensed the commotion over here. It raised its head and let out a fierce cry, charging towards you. It was getting closer and closer. The women and children at the cave entrance were yelling in fright, urging you to leave quickly. But you remained standing there, steady as a rock. Just when the terror bird was 30 meters away from you, you suddenly threw the slingshot at it. The released slingshot spun as it flew. As soon as it made contact with the terror bird's long legs, it tightened quickly. It had already rushed to within 10 meters of you. The terror bird lost its balance and fell directly. Its 2 little wings flapped desperately, but it couldn't get back up. The women at the cave entrance and the little partners were all dumbfounded. They gaped in disbelief at the scene that had just unfolded. You immediately signal 2 little partners to hold the terror bird's neck. You then pick up a large rock and smash it down forcefully. Blood instantly splatters from the terror bird's head. Its body no longer struggles violently. Perhaps the 2 little partners were stimulated by the blood. They also lift stones to strike the terror bird's head. With a few thud-thud sounds, the terror bird has completely lost its breath. The 2 little partners look at you with eyes full of awe. They just don't know what to say. You untie the snake skin from the terror bird's leg and retie it around your waist. You signal the 2 to help you carry the terror bird back to the cave. The 2 are now very obedient. They look just like your little subordinates. The 3 of you work together, pulling the terror bird's legs towards the cave. They saw 3 people bringing back such a large catch. The people in the cave couldn't stay still either. The yelling ones moved the boulder aside and rushed out of the cave to help. The 2 adult men hiding in the trees also came down. They witnessed the entire process of you hunting the terror bird alone. They were very impressed by you too. This was the first time in their tribe's history they had captured such a large prey. Back in the cave, you told the women to keep the feathers for yourself. The rest they could keep for themselves. Now that the danger has passed, you would continue weaving your own baskets. About an hour later, the 2 baskets were already completed. You filled the baskets with the innards of the terror bird and walked towards the river. Along the way, a woman saw you heading to the river alone and followed after you. In her heart, she thought you were very impressive. So I have to keep a close eye on you. The 2 boys who just recognized you as the leader saw you making another strange thing and wanted to go out. They immediately followed you. The 4 of you quickly arrived at the riverbank. You stood on the riverbank and carefully observed for a while. But the more you looked, the more alarmed you became. In just a few minutes, you witnessed several instances of big fish eating small fish. There are actually carnivorous fish in this river. But you have to admit that the ecological environment here is truly good. The water in the small river is so clear that you can see the bottom at a glance. There are many fish inside as well. After choosing the right spot, you threw some of the terror bird's entrails into the basket. Then you tightly held the grass rope and placed the basket into the river. The smell of the raw meat quickly spread in the water. The fish within a 20-meter radius began to stir. They quickly swam towards you. They all dove into the basket, starting to scramble for the entrails. You suddenly pulled the basket out of the water. There were still 4 big fish left in the basket that was escaping. However, the fish in the river didn't run away at all. They gathered in a swarm below, fighting over the entrails. This instantly gave you a feeling of feeding koi in a park. You couldn't help but chuckle with excitement. These fish really had never seen such a trick before. They couldn't even see such a simple trap. Both of your little partners and that adult woman were quite surprised. Using that strange device, pulling it up from the water. You could pull up those legless creatures from the water. But they still didn't understand what to do with them once they were up. You poured the 4 fish onto the ground. After carefully handling them, you cut off a piece of sashimi. You put it in your mouth and started eating. Watching you gobble down the sashimi, they immediately understood that this was something edible. So she copied you and took a piece to eat. The woman's eyes immediately lit up. He instantly realized this was a new source of food. While chattering, she gestured, asking you to teach her how to catch fish. However, you didn't let her do that. You turned and assigned tasks to 3 others. The woman and 1 child were in charge of gutting the fish. The child used grass to hang the cleaned fish on a stick. They would carry them back to the tribe later. Meanwhile, you continued to catch fish. Now all the fish were gathered together. You simply squatted by the shore and scooped them up. Every scoop brought a good catch. The 4 of you did this for the entire afternoon. In the end, over 200 fish were caught. The largest weighed about 10 pounds. 3 people definitely couldn't carry them all back. So you had to send 1 child back to call for more help. Some older children came over to help. The last group of people carried and lifted. They marched in a grand procession toward the cave. At this moment, the groups that went out for foraging and hunting had already returned. Because they had no tools, the adults mostly hunted small animals, like rabbits and wild chickens. Just then, the children returned to the cave carrying fish. They were all yelling at the adults, showing off their catch from today. Originally, the adults were still feeling upset about the chief's death. But when they saw your harvest today, they instantly became happy again. The tragedy of the chief was immediately forgotten. After cleaning up today's catch, all the tribe members gathered outside the cave. A large pile of firewood was stacked in the open space in front of the cave entrance. The chief's body was placed on top. An old man with 2 ram horns on his head lit the pile of wood. The raging fire quickly consumed the chief's body. The firelight illuminated everyone's face. The children were licking their lips at the smell of roasted meat. They felt no sadness at all. The adults also looked calm due to the new source of food. And you took the opportunity to observe this tribe. The tribe currently has 52 people. There are 8 adult men and 15 adult women. The rest are children of various ages. Among them, the one who just lit the fire is the elder of the tribe. This is because he looks the oldest. He is recognized as the smartest person in the tribe. However, he might be second now, because you are replacing him in everyone's minds. There is also a man with an extra finger on his hand. He likes to use a wooden stick as his weapon. It's probably due to inbreeding. He looks a bit dim-witted overall. Next to 6 fingers is a guy who has a feather necklace around his neck. This person seems quite clever. Like 6 fingers, he also likes to use a wooden stick. Behind Feather is Stone, who wears a bone necklace. His common weapon is a stone. A 15-year-old boy is a bit far from the 2 of them. This guy only has 1 right ear. There are 4 scars on the left side of his face. His weapon is a straight pipe fork made from a thigh bone. Next to 1 ear is Beast Tooth, who is 17 years old. His father was the chief of the previous generation. And the weapon he holds is 2 saber-tooth fangs over a foot long. There's also Strongman, the tallest in the tribe. He is strong and robust. His weapon is simple and brutal, just a thigh bone. The last one is Cripple, leaning on a wooden staff. He now follows the gathering team every day. He is specifically responsible for clearing the path and keeping watch. He also enjoys crafting stone tools. It is said that his greatest ambition is, within his lifetime, to be able to craft a stone basin. All in all, among all, 1 ear, Beast Tooth, and Strongman count as well. It's the top fighting force of the tribe. By the time the chief was finished burning, it was already completely dark. Under the elder's leadership, everyone gathered. They started distributing food inside the cave. Because no one had ever eaten fish. So today, they made an exception and let you distribute it. You picked up a pre-cooked fish. You demonstrated to them how to eat the fish. How to pick out the bones. Everyone learned to eat with relish, mimicking your actions. Perhaps it was the first time they felt full. The more they ate, the happier they became, even dancing while eating. The scene before you suddenly gave you a sense of home. You silently vowed in your heart. You must lead the tribe to a better life. After everyone finished eating, the elder, with horns like a ram, held a charred stick, and recorded the scene of you fishing by the river on the rock wall. Meanwhile, you were teaching the women how to weave baskets. You also added 2 grass ropes on top to turn them into backpacks. This way, they won't need to use animal hides to carry fruits in the future. Thus, it will improve the efficiency of gathering. A few women immediately took a liking to it. They took turns trying it on and couldn't bear to put it down. In the end, they decided to gather more vines tomorrow. They made it themselves. To show their gratitude, they selected 2 deer skins from the gathering team. The deer skins were placed in your hands. From then on, you became the first in the tribe child to wear animal hide. But you weren't stingy either. You kept one for yourself. The other was given to the mothers of a few 2 or 3-year-old children, to make clothes for their own children. You should know that young children have weak immune systems. In primitive society, there was no medical technology at all. A simple cold or fever could take the lives of those children. So it's not an exaggeration to say that this piece of deer skin is worth a life. You believe that if one day you need their help, they definitely won't be ungrateful. The next day, you woke up very early. After practicing some basic military exercises, you felt a bit parched. But looking at the water everyone was sharing in that stone basin, you still found it hard to take a sip. It seems it's time to make some containers for water. Soon the tribespeople were all chattering as they walked out of the cave. But today, they were not in a hurry to go hunting. The elder gathered all the adult men in the open space at the cave entrance. At this time, he was holding the chief's green feather crown. It looked like they were going to elect a new chief. You ignored them and turned to walk towards the river. After all, you were not an adult yourself now. You had no right to participate in such a democratic election. But little did you expect that just after taking a few steps, one ear, while yelling, grabbed you and pulled you towards the elder. Just as you were dumbfounded, the elder started gesturing while speaking. It seems your strength has been recognized by everyone. This is to invite you to participate in the chief election. Since that's the case, you certainly won't miss this opportunity. Only by becoming the chief can you command everyone. The method of the chief election is straightforward and brutal. No weapons are allowed. No serious injuries are permitted. The strongest will become the next chief. Soon, One Ear, Beast Tooth, and Strongman emerged victorious in succession. It was time for their competition. Because you don't have the physical advantage, you didn't step up to challenge first. First up was One Ear against Beast Tooth. The two exchanged punches and kicks with no sense of spectacle. It was more a contest of strength. One Ear's stamina wasn't great, but his explosive power was quite good. Before long, he found an opportunity. He dove and pinned Beast Tooth down. Beast Tooth struggled a few times but couldn't get up, breathing heavily through his mouth. He could only reluctantly admit defeat. One Ear looked at the green feather crown in the elder's hand. He couldn't help but let out an excited shout. It was the joy of victory. It was also a provocation directed at Strongman. Strongman immediately stood up. At his height of 1.9 meters, he stood there, like an iron tower. One Ear instantly felt at a loss. But he didn't back down. Instead, he let out a loud shout and launched the first attack. But unexpectedly, just as he reached Strongman, he was grabbed by Strongman's large hands. Those hands immediately clutched his shoulders. Before he could react, he heard a loud shout right next to his ear. Then he flew several meters away. With a thud, he smashed into the ground and couldn't get up for a while. Strongman excitedly pounded his chest. He turned around to take the feather crown from the elder's hands. The tribespeople were also excitedly shouting. This showed their recognition of the new leader. Just then, an unharmonious voice sounded. "I'm anxious. And what about me?" You took a few quick steps forward to him. You grabbed the feather crown from his hands. A few feathers fell off and dropped to the ground. Strongman got upset. He thumped his chest and let out an angry roar. But you did not show any weakness. Instead, you held the feather crown even tighter. You expressed your intention to everyone using the tribe's few dialects. "I defeated him. I will be the leader." The onlooking tribespeople immediately erupted in excitement. They were all yelling, not knowing what they were saying. But it seemed there was no one opposing. And so, under the surprised gazes of the tribespeople, you and Strongman walked to the center of the arena. Strongman looked down at you, who barely reached his chest. His eyes were filled with confidence and disdain. The onlooking little partners were also yelling, cheering you on. You didn't hesitate either. You quickly rushed in front of Strongman. You jumped up, your left foot pressing on Strongman's slightly bent thigh. Your right knee slammed hard into Strongman's chin. Everyone hadn't reacted when Strongman fell straight to the ground. He rolled on the ground, groaning. The tribe members present were instantly dumbfounded. You have to know that Strongman is the strongest warrior in their tribe. Even if he lost, he shouldn't be taken out so quickly. And the opponent is just a minor child. The elder suddenly became very excited. A strong but unfounded feeling appeared in his heart. The entire tribe might grow stronger because of this child before them. Before he could give any instructions, you were already lifted high and tossed up by all the tribe members, celebrating the birth of the new leader. In just 2 short days, you've brought too many miracles to the tribe. In fact, this result is exactly what everyone expected. Just then, the elder picked up the feather crown that you just tore apart. Looking at you, somewhat at a loss. Passed down through countless generations. The chief's token is just gone. What will happen to the image of the new chief? But he had no idea you intentionally ruined the feather crown. Just kidding. To put a ring of green fur on your head. That is absolutely impossible. At this moment, Strongman has already recovered. He clearly still feels somewhat unconvinced. He quickly lunged at you amidst the gasps of the crowd. Seeing this, you immediately flipped over and got up. By the time he charged up close, you grabbed his 2 fingers from behind and forcefully bent them forward. Then, you sidestepped and got behind Strongman. Suddenly, you kicked hard at his thigh. Strongman went straight down to the ground. The more he struggled, the more painful it became. No more than 2 minutes later, even a strong man like Strongman had to beg for mercy with snot and tears. You then clapped your hands and let go of this big oaf, crying rivers of snot and tears. Then turned and entered the cave. This caused the crowd to stir again. The little rascals were cheering, celebrating their first victory over the adults. The women were discussing where they had seen vines to come back at night and have the chief teach them to weave some baskets. The elder was staring at the cave with a complicated expression, not knowing what he was thinking. At this moment, you appeared before everyone again in a new look, wearing a simple deer hide coat. The long black hair is tied up with a snake skin. You looked clean, fresh, and capable. This was your new look after much contemplation. It is said that this style started as far back as the Shang and Zhou dynasties. Early farmers found it inconvenient to farm with their hair down, so they began to tie up their hair. This is also one of the important symbols of the agrarian Han people, one of the important symbols of the ethnic group. Under the watchful eyes of the clan members under the stars, you walk into the crowd to start organizing today's tasks. First, you reorganize the gathering team. The tribe now has a total of 15 adult women. Among them, 6 are visibly pregnant. The remaining 9, plus the cripple, make 10 people. However, today you only sent 8 women to gather. Now that they have baskets, they don't need the cripple to protect them. The cripple is not needed for their protection anymore. Each can still defend themselves with a stick. The 6 pregnant women stay behind to watch the home and take care of those few little toddlers aged 2 or 3. The older children all went to pull weeds. The remaining woman took along 2 boys to go fishing in the river. Now everyone has work to do. But the cripple did not get assigned a task. Because of this, he seems a bit downcast. As for this man who vowed to spend his whole life to grind out a stone basin, you plan to put him in charge of making pottery. But making pottery is not that simple. It requires a lot of preparation. So you have to assign him some other tasks for now. The fish caught yesterday has not dried yet. In this weather, it will spoil quickly without salt. After being smoked, it can last for years without spoiling. So you demonstrated to the cripple and then let him handle it all. Turning around, you found a flat piece of land in front of the cave and started digging a pit to build the kiln. The whole kiln is divided into 3 layers, top, middle, and bottom. The bottom is used for removing ash and for airflow. The middle layer is for adding firewood. The top layer is for placing the pottery. It took a good 3 to 4 hours. Finally, it was completed. But a wet kiln cannot be used. So you called the 2 little partners who caught fish yesterday, and put firewood in each layer to start a fire. This should be usable by the afternoon. After arranging all the work, you then personally went to the riverbank to pick out clay. You found a smooth, flat big cobblestone to use as a workbench. The dugout clay was then pounded and kneaded. First, you shaped a round clay disc. Then, you rolled some clay coils and layered them onto the disc. Next, you shaped it. Finally, you smoothed out the seams. Soon, the first semi-finished product was completed. It was a small jar with a small base and a wide opening. Then, you made 4 more using the same method. You placed them all to dry beside the cave. You had the little partners tending the fire keep an eye on them, not allowing anyone else to touch. Next came several double-handled pots and dozens of ceramic bowls. And some small utensils. These items weren't made for beauty, but for practicality. At this moment, you were still uncertain about how many of these items would actually turn out well after firing. By the time it was about halfway through the afternoon, you place all the semi-finished products into the kiln one by one. The 2 little partners and the cripple are standing. They are watching intently from the side. The new chief managed to make so many clay pots in just one day. But it's uncertain whether they can be used. Especially the cripple is most conflicted. He hopes the clay pots can be used but also hopes they can't be. Otherwise, all those years he spent making stone pots would be in vain. You ignored them. You sat by the fire pit and added more firewood. Then you used animal skins to fan the flames continuously. And so it continued until evening. The tribespeople who had gone out returned one after another to the village. The women's harvest was quite plentiful. Their baskets were all filled with wild fruits. There were also large bundles of vines. It seems they are preparing to weave baskets. The men also had a lot of catches today. 2 large birds that look quite similar to turkeys. There were also some bird eggs and a few groundhogs. Plus over 100 fish caught today. The tribe's harvest was quite remarkable. All the food eaten that day could be stored. The pregnant women were about to give birth. By then, they would have plenty of food. At this moment, looking back from the dense observation, the ceramic bowls above had started to turn white. You felt it should be about right. So you let the flames inside extinguish naturally, thinking to let those ceramics cool overnight. They could be raised tomorrow morning. After a day's labor, the tribesmen were very tired. But they gathered around the campfire. Every face wore a happy smile. They no longer had to go hungry. Most importantly, you had turned 2 large birds into beggars' chicken. They had never eaten such delicious food. Yet you had little appetite. Because this food had only a bit of coarse salt sprinkled on it. You could hardly taste the saltiness. The coarse salt is quite precious now. It said that this was exchanged with other tribes. You are secretly calculating in your mind whether you can exchange some more using pottery. After everyone has finished eating, the women return to the cave to start weaving. They find that the baskets are indeed very useful. The gathering team is smaller today. Yet the harvest is even greater. Meanwhile, you distributed all the animal skins. Now a few kids can snuggle under the blankets. Waking up the next morning, you immediately go to check the results of the pottery firing. The cripple immediately pulls the elder over. He is chattering about something to the elder. He looks quite nervous. You are also very nervous yourself. After all, your bone for salt exchange. And the meat soup you've been thinking about. You've had enough of the dry roasted meat these days. With the feeling of cracking a golden egg, you lifted the lid of the kiln. Peeking inside, I saw all the clay bowls in a vibrant reddish-brown color. The surface, due to the high temperature, already showed signs of melting. Yet, surprisingly smooth as if glazed. Seeing this, the cripple snatched the clay bowl. Excited, he kept stroking it back and forth. Then he tossed aside the crutch he never parted with. Stumbling and tripping, he ran back to the cave. After a while, he was seen carrying a bowl of water, yelling as he rushed back, happily showing this to the tribe. A beautiful container that can hold water. You smiled and continued to take out the pottery. 4 large pots and 4 small water jars were successfully fired. The smooth surface had not a single crack. However, there were only 2 finished products. The rest had melted and all stuck together. Among more than 20 ceramic bowls, only 12 are usable. One by one, the terracotta pottery emerged from the kiln. It brought not only shock but also excitement to the tribe. Beast Tooth and Strongman were the fastest. Each of them ran towards the river with a jar in their arms. In a little while, they returned with 2 jars of water. The elder was excited but managed to stay calm. He gestured and asked you how this was made. Before you could even reply, the 2 little partners who helped yesterday rushed to explain to him. This is made from clay that was fired. But what you were most concerned about was whether it could be exchanged for salt. You gestured to the elder to express this question. Unexpectedly, the elder looked at you with a look of a spendthrift. He pointed at the various sizes of pottery, while also pointing at the adults and children in the tribe. He told you in his native tongue, with great sorrow, just how precious this thing really is. Once you understood, you were completely shocked. Even just 1 bowl can be exchanged for a boy about to become an adult. And 2 girls. Not to mention those water jars and clay pots. Currently, there are very few water containers in all the tribes. It's common to spend a lifetime grinding a stone basin to obtain more containers. Some tribes would even exchange people for it. They believe that having more people is of no use and will consume more food. But you do not think so. More people can access more food and also increase the tribe's fighting power. New members joining also brings fresh blood into the tribe. At least it can reduce the birth probability of children like 6 fingers. Thinking of this, you immediately assign trading tasks. The elder and all 7 members of the hunting team set out. They loaded a water jar and a clay pot into their baskets. 3 clay bowls to exchange for people and salt. Exchange the water jar for 2 adult women. Exchange the clay pot for 2 boys about to become adults. 3 ceramic bowls were all exchanged for salt. If there's no salt, then use the ceramic bowls to trade for girls. After saying this, several people set off immediately. Meanwhile, you continue to organize the work of the other tribe members for today. The trade was with a tribe located to the west of your tribe. After crossing a mountain and then a valley, the group quickly arrived at their destination. This tribe is slightly larger than your Han tribe. The population is about how many? About 80 to 90 people. The 2 tribes had frequently exchanged goods before. Seeing the elder and his group bringing the items for trade, the balding chief of the other side immediately came out to welcome them. After a brief conversation, the elder took a ceramic bowl from his backpack and handed it to him. Use this to trade for salt stones. The balding chief's eyes immediately lit up. This ceramic bowl is smooth inside and out, and it is much lighter than the stone basin from his own tribe. He immediately called his 2 tribe members. The little pack of salt stones was handed to the long rope. But the elder took the bag, glanced at it, and shook his head. We need a bit more. And this time we also want to exchange for 2 adult women. Saying this, he had Strongman take out the water jug. Baldy was immediately dumbfounded. This stone basin is really big. We can store more water in the future. But the next moment, he hesitated. Exchanging 2 women for such a large stone basin is indeed a great deal. But right now it is the season for gathering food. Losing 1 person means we will have less harvest. But in the end, he still smiled and agreed. Can't losing 1 person reduce consumption? This is a huge profit. After a while, 2 naked, emaciated women were brought over. They are a pair of adult sisters. The older sister is also holding a 4-year-old naked little boy in her arms. The little boy is motionless with his eyes closed. It's obvious he is sick. We will exchange these 2 people for your large stone basin. That little boy gave you guys something. The balding chief waved his hand in disdain. It seemed like he was urging the 2 women to hurry up and leave. The elder looked at the 2 weak women and said nothing. He had Stone take out the clay pot he was carrying, and the remaining clay bowls. If you want, you can exchange them for the boy. The balding chief just traded for a large vat. Now seeing this slightly smaller one, he liked it but waved his hand to indicate he wouldn't trade. Seeing this, the elder had no choice but to demonstrate the method the new chief taught that morning. He demonstrated on-site how to cook a pot of meat soup with the clay pot. Soon, a strong meaty aroma wafted from the pot. The members of the opposing tribe immediately began to drool. So this is how meat can be eaten. The balding chief eagerly took the clay bowl from the elder's hands. It was filled with chunks of stewed meat and broth. The balding chief hesitated and took a bite. Suddenly, they were stunned. My goodness, it smells so good. The savory meat soup wafted with a layer of beautiful oil. That delicious, juicy stew. One bite in, and I felt completely at ease. They're just a few kids. Change. It must be changed. At this moment, the balding man finally became generous. He gave it away happily and freely. He had his little brother bring out a big bag of salt rocks. They filled Strongman's backpack to the brim. Seeing this, the elder nodded in satisfaction. Immediately, the group started their grand journey back. They came as a group of 7, plus the 9 that joined them. Those 9 people. On the way back, it became a group of 16. This harvest is much better than a day of hunting. The travelers hurried on their way. Finally, they returned to the Han tribe as evening approached. But as these newly brought people reached the clearing at the cave entrance, they were all shocked by the sight before them. At this moment, the elder returned to the tribe with a large group of people. They were immediately stunned by the scene before them. At the entrance of the cave were the 4 water jars that the cripple had made today. 4 newly fired water jars. 4 pots and a large stack of sea bowls. The cripple was grinning foolishly as he looked at these pottery items. This was the happiest day of his life. Meanwhile, on the other side of the open space, hundreds of large fish were hanging together to dry. The women nearby were all smiling cheerfully. All of this is meat. Now they can catch meat too. Especially those few who had just returned. The adults and children were dumbfounded. You have to know that 1 stone basin can be exchanged for 2 adults. But this tribe actually had so many. This could bring back everyone in their tribe, right? And those hanging pieces of meat should all be edible. It seems that coming to this tribe is not a bad thing. The elder brought the people to report their work to you. 8 naked people plus 1 naked child. You squint your eyes and walk past them one by one. Each one looks thin and clearly inferior. But that's okay. There's plenty of meat in the tribe. They can all recover in 1 winter. Finally, you walk up to the woman holding the child. The child is completely still. His face is quite red. You touch the child's forehead. It's already as warm as a small furnace. You quickly pull the woman into the cave. You first find a piece of animal skin to wrap the 2 of them. You let them sit by the fire to warm up. Meanwhile, you're pacing anxiously on the side. There are no medicines available now. How do you bring down the fever? Suddenly, your eyes brighten. Right? Scraping can reduce fever. Thinking of this, you immediately start to prepare. First, you boil a pot of clear fish soup by the fire. Then you go look for a bone that can be used for scraping. The beak of that terror bird was about half a meter long. Just smashing it into a small piece will be enough. The woman holding the child doesn't know what you're planning to do. You've been frowning ever since you touched her child. She is very worried that you might drop her child. Thinking of this, tears involuntarily flow down. Just then, you walked in front of her holding a piece of the bird's beak. Hand the child to me. I can help you save him. The woman doesn't understand what it means. But she can feel that you are treating her better than the previous chief. So, trembling with fear, she handed the child over to you. You scraped the child's skin with the bone piece, leaving stripe-like red marks. The child, still in a deep sleep, winced in pain. He kept crying out. Seeing this, the child's mother immediately tried to snatch her child back. But soon, they were firmly held down by 2 women. Before long, you were scraped all over. The child covered in red marks was returned to her. You scooped out another bowl of fish soup and fed it to her child spoonful by spoonful. This child didn't know how long they had been hungry. As soon as it touched their lips, they swallowed it down. You immediately breathed a sigh of relief. As long as they can eat, there's still hope. As long as they can sweat it out in a bit, this little life would be saved. The woman also felt completely at ease. Although she didn't know what you were doing earlier. But it didn't seem like you wanted to harm her child. Once she relaxed, her stomach, which hadn't eaten in 2 days, began to rumble. Looking at the fish soup in front of her, she swallowed hard. You immediately ladled out a bowl of fish soup along with a large piece of fish, and handed it to her. Then you took the child from her arms, held tightly in arms, wrapped securely in animal skin. At this moment, you were extremely worried. A small fever can be deadly. The issue of everyone eating has been temporarily resolved. But what about clothes? I need to accumulate as much animal skin as possible. I still have to hunt large animals to achieve that. But these weapons currently won't do the job at all. I must still follow along for future hunting. Go out and find some materials to make weapons. Even if they are terrible, I need to set up a few traps or something. You silently vowed in your heart. Before winter arrives, everyone must have a piece of clothing. By the time everyone finished eating, the little boy had also woken up. He was covered in sweat. You handed him over to the woman. You personally tied his hair up for him. You even gave him the name, Tsubing. The woman was very happy. The new tribe leader not only saved her child, but also personally styled his hair like everyone else's. This means he has accepted these people as his own. Today, the other newcomers are also here. With the help of the elder, they completed the hair tying. At first glance, it looks different from other tribes. They also look much more spirited. After finishing these, you start making equipment for yourself. You pick out a relatively straight stick. You bind a spearhead made from the leg bone of the terror bird to one end of the stick. An primitive bone spear is created. Next, you break off some of the terror bird's beak and sharpen it into a short knife. You give the remaining materials to the cripple. Let him make one too. Now there are just these two pieces of equipment. Everything has to be made by yourself. The next morning, after the tribe's people wake up, you assign new tasks. The cripple continues to fire pottery. First, we must ensure that everyone has a bowl. The adult women are divided into two teams. One team goes to gather wild fruits, while the other goes fishing. The remaining children stay behind to help. You personally led the hunting team. All the members of the hunting team, along with your two little partners, Big Mouth and Monkey, who usually follow you, and the two brothers, Big Fur and Second Fur, whom you bought yesterday. A complete team of people. They marched boldly towards the jungle, facing the morning sun. Once they entered the jungle, the hunting team spread out. Each adult hunted separately. You were with 4 little brothers. Big Mouth, Monkey, Big Fur, and Second Fur. Each of them carried a basket on their back. They helped you bundle the grass ropes. Most of the trees in this forest are nut-producing species. Each one is over 30 meters tall. But looking at the diameter of over 1 meter, you have no way to deal with it. After all, there are no metal tools yet. The ground is filled with fallen nuts. From a distance, you can see some large birds foraging on the ground. But all along the way, you just observed. No animals were hunted. As an excellent hunter, one must first understand. It's important to know what is in your hunting grounds. The little partners following behind were getting impatient. Several times they spotted the guinea fowl eating nuts and were eager to try. You didn't pay them any attention. You were just calculating in your mind. Since this mountain is a complete food chain, small animals can be seen everywhere in this forest. There must be large carnivorous animals. In fact, it is indeed the case. This can be seen from the tracks and droppings left on the ground. Soon you discovered traces of wild boar. From the chaotic footprints, it should be a group. However, the depth of those footprints truly scared you. They seem to weigh at least 1,000 pounds. You must know this is a real primal jungle. The path moved cautiously forward. Finally, I climbed over the ridge. Suddenly, your eyes lit up. Before you lay a shimmering valley. A stream sparkled with glimmers of light. Next to the stream were some enormous aloe plants. At this moment, more than 10 babirussas were drinking water by the stream. It looked like a whole family. The leading boar weighed about 750 kilograms. Behind him followed his large sow, second sow, and third sow. There were also over 10 piglets the size of domestic pigs. Charging in recklessly against such a presence would definitely not work. It's better to set up some traps for safety. You quietly crawled back close to the ground. You returned to the woods. The little partners were extremely frightened. They just wanted to catch a wild chicken or dig a mouse hole or something. They hadn't even considered such targets. You had no expectations for them at all. You began to set up traps by yourself. You made several figure-8 snares with grass rope on the pig's footprints. One end is tied directly to the big tree. As soon as a pig's hoof steps into the noose, it will tighten automatically. Moreover, the more it struggles, the tighter it gets. This kind of trap is perfect for use right now. It's simple and quick to make. For safety's sake, the little partners climbed the tree directly under your arrangement. Now we just need to make that group of pigs go back the way they came. You quietly circled around to the bushes on the other side of the creek. You quietly wrapped yourself in mud while moving through the bushes. Covering yourself in mud. Holding 2 branches, you suddenly jumped out from behind the bushes. At the same time, you yelled loudly to drive them away. The pig herd had never seen such a creature. They immediately scattered and ran into the woods. You chased closely behind them, yelling while running. Before long, you heard the cries of wild boars ahead. When you reach the trap area, you see 2 struggling wild boars. The lead boar is among them. There's also an adult female boar. This grass rope won't hold for long. You carefully approach with the bone spear. You wait for the right moment and thrust it forcefully into its open mouth. The sharp bone spear pierces through its neck. The boar's blood sprays out like it's free. In no time, the 1,500-pound beast finally falls to the ground. Its body twitches from time to time. You finally breathe a sigh of relief. However, soon a problem presents itself. How can 5 kids bring back such a large wild boar? Looking at the female boar struggling beside you, an idea suddenly strikes you. Without delay, you start to act. First, you secure the female boar with the grass rope to a tree. Then tie its mouth tightly with a rope to prevent it from biting. Next, tie 2 ropes to the front legs of the sow. Finally, tie the boar's rope to the sow. Once everything is done, you will lead the way by holding the pig's mouth in front. Big Mouth and Monkey each hold onto one. The sow's front legs move on either side. Let the sow pull the boar back to the tribe. Big Fur and Second Fur walk at the back with sticks, keeping watch, to prevent animals from ambushing them. Occasionally, they poke the sow's rear with the sticks to hurry it along. So they made their way through the dense jungle like this. Finally, they spotted the tribe's cave from a distance. One of the little partners was clearing the bushes outside. The little partner was the first to spot you. He yelled to notify the people in the tribe. In no time, they all swarmingly came over to greet you. But none dared to come close. They had never seen such a large prey before. You called for the cripple to prepare a water tank and some salt. He immediately hobbled off to get ready. Once he brings the water tank, you dig a pit in the ground. Then place the tank in the pit. The mouth of the tank is just slightly above the ground. Then everyone pushes the sow next to the water tank. You stab directly into its neck. Not a single drop of blood spilled out, it sprayed into the tank. In a little while, the tank was completely filled with blood. Pour in a bowl of salt water and stir well. It won't be long before it transforms into delicious blood tofu. It will be used to make soup for dinner. The skin of the boar will be treated to make leather boots or bags. These 2 pigs should provide enough for many pairs. Under the skin, there is a layer of white lard at least 4 fingers thick. In a little while, we'll roast it over the fire. The rest, besides the pig lungs, will be used for fishing. The rest is all edible. Even the larger bones have all been stripped clean. They can be used to make some weapons or something. The entire afternoon was spent on this. All of it was focused on these 2 massive pigs. It's exhausting, but the results are very rewarding. The smoking rack is filled with pieces of meat, big and small. A jar of cooked blood tofu. 3 jars of white pig lard. The children are happily picking up the cracklings without stopping. Even the sick ones are enjoying it. Just when the cripple was opening the kiln to retrieve pottery in the evening. The busy main group has also returned after a long day. The fishing team brought back several hundred fish. Just the fish bladders filled an entire basket. Plus, there are 2 large jars of fish roe. The hunting team didn't do badly either. 3 wild chickens and 2 large snakes. More than 10 bird eggs and a dozen groundhogs. And also a nut. Even more surprising is the gathering team. Today's gathering team, led by the sick ant, found a new type of food. It's a very sweet tree root. When cut open, it surprisingly has natural amber syrup inside. If we collect a bit more, we can refine white sugar. For that, you specifically praised the girl. Everyone was happily eating together. But one person was different from everyone else. You see the elder, with a dark face, holding a thorny vine covered in red thorns, chasing after the sick ant, continuously striking. You know from the original owner's memory. That vine is like a form of discipline in the tribe. Specifically for punishing those who have made a serious mistake. Seeing this, you hurriedly stopped the furious elder. Ask him why he hit someone. As a result, he mentioned an incredible reason. That type of root is bait for the demon tree. Anyone who eats the roots will be devoured by the demon tree. Hearing this, you quickly tell everyone to stop eating those roots. It's not that you truly believe what he said. Rather, you're worried this thing might indeed be poisonous. Or that it could be addictive. Because of this matter, you remained very alert while trying to sleep at night. You carefully sensed the changes in your body. Luckily, nothing happened through the night. By the time it was bright out and the tribespeople came out, you began to organize today's tasks. Everything else was the same as usual. The only difference was that Tu-il and his mother went to the fishing team, while you took 4 little buddies to the gathering team. You want to see what the elder mentioned about the demon tree really is. That tree is located deep in the back mountain of the cave. There aren't many tall trees on this mountain. However, the bushes are very lush. Additionally, there are quite a few fruit trees. During the journey, you happily discovered the chili peppers you had been craving. A patch of red ones was hidden in the bushes. But the tribespeople never eat this. They believe its spicy taste makes it poisonous. Immediately, you ordered 4 little partners to take the day off. They should focus on picking chili peppers here. You continued moving forward with the gathering team. Over a ridge, a basin came into view. Here, you can see the remains of animals colored blue everywhere. It looks just like a mass grave. And in the center of this basin, a strange tree about 60 meters tall stands there. Its floating roots cover an area of about 500 meters. The closer you get to the center, the more root nodules there are. This pattern seems to be attracting animals to the trunk. Your intuition tells you, the closer you are to the trunk, the more danger there is. However, you still plan to get a little closer to take a look. Relying on your own skills, you are confident you can retreat unharmed. With each step, you poke the ground ahead with your spear, slowly edging closer to the center. But just as your spear reached the area covered by the tree canopy, the intuition developed over years as a special forces soldier tells you that danger is imminent. Without a second thought, you hurriedly retract the spear and backtrack. At that moment, a whistling wind suddenly descended from above. More than 10 spikes, nearly 1.2 meters long. The spikes plunged straight into the ground. The target was exactly where your spear had just touched. These spikes have a peculiar shape. Each one has a diameter of nearly 1 centimeter. The shortest of them is over 1 meter long. At the end, there is a huge white flower shaped like a bowl. Isn't this a natural arrow? You suddenly feel elated. The story of borrowing arrows with straw boats suddenly popped into your mind. You use your backpack as a target. You tie a long rope to the backpack and throw it under the treetops. In an instant, over a dozen sharp spikes get embedded. You pull the basket back, remove the spikes, and repeat the process. After gathering 2 big bundles, you use a spear to carry them out. As you leave, you instruct the women. The tree roots are edible, but only the outer ones can be harvested. On the way back to the tribe, you collect another 100 demon saplings in the woods. The saplings are about 3 centimeters thick. These are all straight and sturdy. They are the best material for making spears. You call over 4 little partners who are gathering peppers. 5 people carried the saplings home together. When they returned to the tribe, the children gathered around to watch the new items brought back by the chief. But in the eyes of those pregnant women, the things you brought back are completely useless. The peppers can't be eaten. The sticks aren't thick enough to kill the prey when struck. But this does not affect your happy mood at all. You need to make good use of the remaining time. Update your gear a bit. The stripped spiky rods are finely textured and hard. Their diameter is about the same as a cigarette. If made into arrows, they would also be heavy arrows. Although it may affect the range, the penetrating power is strong. And the 3 centimeter thick saplings, due to their hard wood, as long as the surface is carbonized and a sharp tip is ground out, it would definitely be enough for hunting. Naturally, the task of sharpening the spearheads is left to the 4 little brothers. From now on, everyone in the tribe will be equipped with this new type of spear. Now all that's missing is a bow. Given the current conditions, we can only make a longbow. Although it's bulky, its power is not diminished at all. The best material for making a longbow is cedar wood. There were some in the woods where we caught the wild boar yesterday. We just need to find one that's the right size. What you're really concerned about is still the aloe vera you found while hunting the wild boar. The fibers rich in its leaves are the best material for making ropes. It can also be used to weave cloth for clothing. Although it's not as good as Rami, It still surpasses beast skins by far. Plus, it's very strong. More importantly, the juice from its leaves can be used to treat wounds. It can both relieve inflammation and detoxify, as well as clear heat and dispel fire. Thinking of this, you plan to start mass planting aloe vera from next year. By then, the tribe will have clothes to wear. It will also significantly reduce the infections caused by injuries from hunting leading to death.